Everybody's tired of hearing the Jeffrey Epstein. And, you know, those that are tired of hearing about the Jeffrey Epstein list, maybe you should read it. Maybe you should check it out for yourself. That's why we keep talking about it, because it is fucking bad, dude. It has made me believe in God. It has made me believe in the devil. The weirdest part about the Epstein list is all these people that's on it, Zionists as they call it, are 100% worse than devil worshippers. I have had people send me messages that were Satan worshippers. And they said, no, that's not us. These people are way worse than Satan worshippers. Your president and our whole government is shunned by Satan worshippers. They don't want nothing to do with them. Maybe you should check this Epstein list up. I'm going to keep making these movies because every single thing I get on my algorithm is pretty much about the Epstein list. I've never actually looked in the Epstein list. I don't know what I'm going to have to do to prove this to you guys. Here's volume number 2 of The American Way.
Israeli Zionism has compromised the United States as a fundamental whole. The United States has fallen at the hands of the Israeli diaspora. And if you're wondering what is Israeli Zionism and the diaspora, Israeli Zionism is a Jewish cult. It is a group of Jewish extremists, and diaspora is the disbursement of their people, aka their agenda to take over the world. And they've been pretty successful at this on the account that they've always had the United States of America at their whim. Our tax dollars, our military. We've been executing the will of the Israeli Zionist cult for God only knows how long, okay? But what a lot of you guys don't understand is that Israeli Zionism is older than the United States of America, and it's been around for a really long time. This is not a new threat, especially to not just the entire world and the economy, but more specifically Christians. The primary reason that Jewish people have been kicked out of so many different countries is because Zionism, okay? And there have been rabbis who have admitted to poisoning wells that caused the plague. A greater majority of Europe kicked Jewish people out as a fundamental whole because they believed them responsible for the plague. And the plague killed 2/3 of Christian Europeans. Then there was the Bolshevik genocide, which killed 66 million Christians at the hands of Jewish extremists. Now, this isn't an anti-Semitic post. These are historically documented facts, suspicions, etc., right? This isn't to say that every Jewish person is a Zionist, but there is very much a Zionist cult that exists that has a goal for global domination. And why am I saying all of this? Because a lot of these Christian nationalists and KKK members genuinely believe that they're safe from the torments of the Trump administration and ICE. But the Trump administration is a puppet for Israeli Zionism. And even if you're really not Christian, you're still a Gentile to them. So when they're done bleeding you dry of their tax dollars for whatever resources they need to further their agenda, they're going to point a genocide at you. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because that is what they do. Please understand that these people have been doing this for fucking centuries, since they've been exiled from the Holy Land, are undoubtedly on a mission to point that genocide at you. You're their op, you're their enemy, and they own your country, corporation, economy, and government.
Wouldn't it be crazy if Epstein and his friends seemed to be big admirers of Hitler? People walking around talking to themselves, get 100 more like you so we have a control group. Adolf Hitler was sweet. Bodhi sounds like diminutive. This is an email where Jeffrey Epstein talks about how his family may have or may have not have housed Hitler back in Germany, back before World War II started. This excerpt talks about a Harvard class which talked about how Hitler was financed by the Gutmans, the Epsteins, and the Rothschilds. I know it's true, but regularly used to say that Rothschilds planned and supported Hitler en masse for destruction to gain more power.
Have any of y'all looked to see how many sitting members of Congress are over the age of retirement? How many of them are over the age of 70? You know, that new retirement age they want? How about we start with this? If you're old enough to receive retirement benefits, you should not be a sitting member in Congress. Because if you're that close to kicking the bucket, do you really give a fuck about the future of this country?
I have been struggling lately, specifically struggling to direct my anger in the right way and in the right direction. Hearing all these stories lately of children being abused on such a massive scale, and watching our government actively cover it up to protect the abusers makes me more mad than I can possibly express. There's a level of anger rising in me like I've never felt before. I'm a father of 2 young kids. Keeping up with all these stories makes it hard to just go about your regular fatherly duties at home. And people say, well, don't keep up with it so much. Don't read so much. Don't listen to so much of it. Well, it is my job as a parent to keep up with it, to know what's happening in the world, and to be realistic about it and face the fact that these things are happening, and to be able to protect my children from that. It is my job to keep up with it and to pay attention what's really happening in the world. And I find it harder each day just to balance that, just to, be a happy dad at home, to play with the kids and do regular dad things, and wash the dishes and sweep the floor and clean the rooms, just to keep up and do regular things while there are monsters in the world.
Did you hear the incredible news that the 2 hikers who went missing in Antarctica over 4.5 years ago just reappeared? And it is baffling the scientific experts because they had been left for dead of fatality deaths on the continent. Well, this is Shadrach Hansen and his brother Brian Hansen. They are explorationers, and over 4.5 years ago they went down to Antarctica because they said, we think there's ancient civilizations and potentially alien tech underneath the ice capsulages in Antarctica. Well, when they reemerged, the first thing they said is, we've been living amongst a non-human intelligence community underneath the ice, and we have so much to tell you. They have a message for humans. They call them our sky cousins, and it's beautiful there. Well, a black helicopter, a matte black helicopter landed, and my guess it was the world governors, and they said, hey, we need you to debrief us. Well, now the 2 are missing again, and when I've contacted the world governors and said, where are they? They said, we don't know what you're talking about. Those 2 died on Antarctica 4.5 years ago. Well, I have this videographerage of them re-emerging from it, and so they can't pull that one on us.
Yep, it's true. ICE is recruiting ex-IDF soldiers out of Tel Aviv. There's the information. I got it directly from the government website. This is not a screenshot from a social media post. So it is true. It is true. We have Israelis telling us how we should live. Israel was nice enough to give the Department of Homeland Security software they can use to spy on us. So they can literally see everything that we say and do. They can literally see everything we do. They hear everything we say.
There's no intention to fix the system. They're setting it up for replacement. First, they show you how corrupt it is by exposing just enough of the rot. Then, they offer you a solution. People are being pushed into desperation. Why? Because pain makes people compliant, crash the economy, and force unemployment. Then, they'll roll out CBDCs as a lifeline and tie survival to a government wallet. Then, they'll offer a universal basic income as the solution, bundled with social and carbon scores. Obedience earns access. Dissent locks you out. Movement restricted, accounts frozen, punishment automated by AI.
And today?
We just learned how they're going to try and convince us to adopt a central bank digital currency. At the World Economic Forum, Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, they're the world's largest asset manager, said we need to rapidly move to the digitization of our currency. Then says the key words here: we could reduce corruption. For that to happen, that means someone will be monitoring our transactions and determining if they can be made or not. That's a central bank digital currency. I'm anti-corruption, and everyone I know is for stopping corruption. So they're going to use that to try and convince us to go to a CBDC. We can fight against corruption without adopting a central bank digital currency. No thank you, BlackRock. We're good.
Are you paying attention? Let's go.
When the big, beautiful bill was signed into legislation via Congress, it allocated $170 billion. That's already happened to ICE, to the Department of Homeland Security. There is another bill that Congress is about to pass for another $28 billion to go to the FBI as well as ICE. ICE now has the largest law enforcement budget. It is larger than all law enforcement agencies combined, okay? They are building their own private prison system. This is already underway. It is already being done. It is overseen by the FBI. They don't answer to the judges. They don't answer to anybody but the President of the United States. So the President of the United States of America will have his own prison system. It is an industrial prison system. He profits off of people being in jail, okay? That's how the American prison system has always worked. ICE agents are able to act with full impunity, and they are going to get paid for imprisoning you. ICE agents are also being trained by the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Forces. The IDF is the Israeli army that is responsible for committing the genocide against Palestine. ICE's job is to specifically antagonize the American citizens so that they can act with full impunity, whether it's murdering them or imprisoning them. If they murder you, then they get rid of what they would consider a dissenter. If they imprison you, then they have a slave to make money off of. But it doesn't stop there. Larry Ellison and Peter Thiel are American billionaires, and they are billionaires by way of developing AI surveillance software. Currently, Israel and the IDF are using this AI surveillance software to help implement the genocide. It's also used in the United Kingdom for their digital ID, and ICE agent Peter Thiel is also currently investing in offshore AI equipment that will mine minerals and gold in Greenland, anticipating the president is going to invade. So all of this is undoubtedly for the profit of the ruling billionaire class. What does that mean if you're a Trump supporter? It means this has fuck all to do with immigration. What does this mean if you're not a Trump supporter? It means that as an activist or even just a liberal, you are a target, and they very much have the surveillance software they need to determine who you are, where you live, and furthermore, target you. Now, I know a lot of you gung-ho Republicans are thinking, well, the army is going to come and save the American people. No, it's not. The secretary of the department, a man by the name of Steven Feinberg. Steven Feinberg is a Zionist. Steven Feinberg owns the second largest bank in Israel. Steven Feinberg owns an American company. He is a billionaire. It is called Capital Management. Capital Management's sole purpose is to provide privatized military contracts to the United States Department of Defense, which he is the secretary of. It's also massively important that we remind Americans they just failed their financial audit and can account for $506 billion of American taxpayer money that was budgeted to the Department of Defense. These people are now financed to commit a genocide, capable and willing to commit a genocide, and are operating with the backing, training, and also planning of people who are actively committing a genocide. When AI surveillance kicks in, you will not have free speech. You will not have the constitutional right to peaceful assembly. You will not have the right to bear arms. You will not have freedom of press. And you will not have taxation with representation, because they are adamantly and vigorously funding a police authoritarian state. They are intentionally letting you know that you and your children will be slaves if you are a Trump loyalist with none of your constitutional rights. And that is the best case scenario for those of you who have white skin in the United States of America. For the rest of everybody else, whether you're an activist, whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a minority, whether you're a woman, whether you're a migrant or an illegal migrant, you are a person of interest, and you are undoubtedly under attack, and the war they have declared is on you. You have two options right now. You either fight for your freedom or you leave. It is officially fight or flight time in the United States of America.
Comes a shove, you either win or lose. History repeats itself, there's only one way to choose. So put your money where your mouth is, protect the American dream. Poor people in combat boots, waving AR-15. History tells us a different story, changing the face of what was old glory. Read me my rights, you better study your Constitution, pack your bags for the revolution. This ain't no game, we've seen it all before, erasing what's left and right. This is poverty war. United we stand to tear down the kingdom wall. On stolen land, divided we fall.
West Virginia House Bill 4466 is not about safety. It gives the cop on the beat absolute power to snatch you off the street and cage you on nothing but their say-so. No evidence, tests, or any real check on their word. If the officer says you're a problem, you're gone. This is how the ruling class manages its surplus population. They need vaguer laws, wider nets, and faster cell doors to sweep up the poor, unwanted, and the restless. The state is arming the police with the law itself as a weapon of preemptive punishment. One observation from a badge-backed liar and your freedom vanishes. Do not treat this as reform. It is the state expanding its permission to lock people up. We have to see this for what it is, an occupying force writing its own rules on the street. People must expose it and organize against it.
If you haven't figured it out by now, our government is a gigantic mafia who launders our taxpayer dollars directly back to themselves. And they do it through things like, foreign aid, endless wars, childcare facilities. They hate you. They despise you. They want to depopulate you. And they think of you as a worker bee. Okay? And even if they do think of you as a worker bee and they want to depopulate you because of the deranged death cult and fancy suits that they are, they still need worker bees to grow their food and to clean up after them. But let's be clear about one thing. They could care less whether you suffer and die a horrific death as long as they get rich. It's not something that we can turn a blind eye to. This is the reality of what we're dealing with as a population. Things are only going to get worse, and until people wake up and they start to recognize the conundrum that we find ourselves in, it will never get better.
I've reached the United States Department of Justice. I'd like to leave a comment on the United States Department of Justice comment line. Press 3.
Have we not taken any action against anyone in the fucking Epstein files? How come no arrests have been made? We're getting impatient.
Hypocrisy is all I see. They obviously just profiting off all of these kids. But I see these higher ups and they trafficking is baffling. What is systematic and ain't happening? What happened when Maxwell was in the land of street kidnapping kids? Hold up, let me talk about it. These pedophiles are men in suit ties, but you don't really wanna talk about it. Well, let me talk about it. It be the president, government, Democrats and Republicans on the covers with kids on the block, kids on the street, kids you don't know, kids you don't see. Get up on your feet. This the revolution that they never will defeat. Yeah, put your hands up and repeat after me.
Hey, hi, hello, and welcome back to class. I'm the History Wizard, and I have a master's degree in Holocaust and Genocide Studies. Every single thing that fascist governments do is a test. Every new piece of rhetoric, every new bit of legislation passed, it's all a test to see what we will let them get away with. And it's never just one thing at a time. It's always 10,000 things, because they want us to be overwhelmed and anxious and afraid, to the point where it feels like we can't do anything to resist this because there's too much of it to fight back against at once. But something to always remember is that this is not a sprint. Resistance is a marathon, and what's more, it's a relay race. So if you're feeling too tired and overwhelmed and anxious and afraid to do anything today, it's okay. You can tap out. And I'll pick up the slack. And tomorrow you'll pick up mine. And we'll all work together, picking up where others fall off. never stopping until the world's better or we're all dead.
How big is your God? This is a concise chart of all of man's interactions with deities. Jesus appears right here. Second crusade is here. I'm about to ask a question that's going to make most people label me as a blasphemous sinner. We always hear Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father except through Jesus. I'm going to point something out to you. This is a concise chart of all of man's interactions with deities. Jesus appears right here. All of this predates Christ. Are all those people in hell because he wasn't around? To put this in perspective, there's Abraham. Abraham's right there. Exodus from Egypt. What about all that? Asking you a question. How big is your God? How long does he exist? How many countries does he encompass? Over here. Here we go. Roger Bacon. My God. I read about all these people in high school. Spaniards discover Cambodia. Act to burn the witches past. Catherine de Medici. The Second Crusade. The Second Crusade is here. Everything I've known about Jesus in the Bible originated here. I gotta know all that. We started with tree worship all the way back there, and we've gone through this animal worship, fertile worship. As humanity's evolved, it obviously has done, as Voltaire said, God created man in his own image, man returned the favor.
This message is for the men in this country. It's time to step up. It's time to put your political differences aside, all that race bullshit aside, all the shit that they keep us divided with. Put that shit aside. It's time to do some critical thinking. No more waiting. The problems in this country, they're not going to fix themselves. They never have. It's time to start meeting up, having real conversations. No more sitting in silence. We need to talk. We need to connect. It starts with us.
How long do we honestly think this level of corruption, instability, and moral decay can continue before something really breaks for good? History is not vague about this. Every major empire believed it was different. Rome, they thought they were permanent. So did the Ottoman Empire. So did Britain at its peak. They all had warning signs. Corruption at the top, complete loss of public trust, widening wealth gaps, social division, foreign conflicts, distracted citizens. Stability erodes slowly, then all at once. Civilizations, they don't collapse in a day. They rot from within until pressure exposes the weaknesses. And when confidence in institutions finally cracks, events accelerate fast. Financial shocks, civil unrest, supply chain disruption, power struggles. History shows this pattern over and over. And I'm sorry, but the lone wolf fantasy is a lie. Isolation is weakness. What survives collapse are skills, discipline, tight community. It's time to learn real survival skills, get real training, build strong local networks. We have to know our neighbors. We have to strengthen our family. Because when stress hits a nation, it doesn't reward comfort. It rewards the prepared and the united.
This is not something we can fight individually. This is something that must be brought from the top down. I want you to keep eyes out on my Facebook. I just posted a premiere trailer for a movie called Dear Mr. President. It's going to come to fruition soon. There are going to be podcasts coming out. There are going to be trailers coming out. And in March, there will be a world premiere movie that I will be in. It's called Dear Mr. President, Straw Man. We, the people, my fellow Americans, welcome to the unification.
Tired of being the victim of shame. You're throwing me in a class with a bad name. I can't believe this is the land from which I came. You know I really do hate to say it. The government don't wanna see it. But if Roosevelt was living, he wouldn't let this be. No. Skinhead, deadhead, everybody gone bad. Situation, speculation, everybody litigation. Beat me, bash me, you can never trash me. Hit me, kick me, you can never get me. All I wanna say is that they don't really care about us.
Is it just me, or is today got a real give me liberty or give me death kind of vibe to it? You know what I'm saying? A real, I am not a Virginian, but an American kind of flavor to it. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek from Barack Obama. Thank you, chef. Bro is cooking. Followed up by a little bit of a, those who make a peaceful revolution impossible make a violent revolution inevitable. Who said that? The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them. How many black women do you know? that's on you, buddy. A black revolution makes everyone freer than they actually want to be. Has been stuck in my head. I had no idea history was being made. I was just tired of giving up.
Our tax dollars should never, ever, ever go outside of this country until this country looks like fucking Dubai, where there is no crime, the most beautiful cities, a thriving economy with a thriving middle class where people aren't taxed to death. Until we get in that position, which those people in Washington will never allow us to be, because when we become that, we are harder to control, we are harder to resist, and they have lost the understanding that they serve us. We do not serve them. Right now, we are serving them, and they are intentionally keeping us impoverished so that they can control this country and stay in power and continue to steal your tax dollars. That's what's going on, and the American people need to stand up against it and fix it once and for all.
Is going to give birth in a hospital, there's a question that you need to ask before you go that can determine whether you are likely to have safe care or not. And there are going to be hospitals that are pissed that I am making this video, but I hope it goes far and wide. But you need to know whether the hospital that you are going to give birth in follows AWON's safe staffing standards. I did not say guidelines. I did not say suggestions. I said standards. It is a huge document that lays out exactly what safe staffing is on a perinatal unit. And when it comes to labor and birth, your nurse should be caring for no more than 2 patients ever. And that should be on a bad day. I'm grateful I am blessed to work in a place where most of the time I have 1 patient. On a crazy day too, but never ever more than that. But there are hospitals that are getting away with egregiously unsafe staffing because no one is holding them accountable. They're just leaving their nurses to deal with it. And when you have a nurse that is caring for more patients than they should be caring for, things happen. By no fault of the nurse, just a fault of the system. Hospitals need to be prioritizing safe staffing in order to provide safe care.
When my wife got fired from K County Detention Center, she was actually looking for another job because of these unsafe staffing problems. There was nobody having babies, but there was times that there was up to 400 inmates in that prison. And she was the only nurse. Maybe she would have a med aid. Maybe there would be an RN there with her. But most of the times, it would just be her and maybe one other nurse for 400 inmates. That's not very safe.
Look at your paycheck this month and realize that they're taking a lot more money out of it to pay for your health insurance. Just realize we needed that money to invade Venezuela, okay? It's your patriotic duty to pay more for health care because we had to invade Venezuela. If you're wondering why your daycare costs went up, well, that's because, well, folks, Greenland's not gonna conquer itself now, is it? All right? Sure. You're wondering, well, if we're going to get all this oil and minerals, shouldn't my electric bill go down? Absolutely not. Iran needs to be toppled. What about Yemen? There's not enough craters in Yemen, are there, folks? I don't see enough craters in that desolate country. That's why we had to close your hospital. Hey, what's that over there? Looks like Nigeria's getting a little uppity. Better shut down a school lunch program. Uh-oh, Canada, did you just talk back to me? That's the reason why we gotta cut back on local infrastructure and make sure more planes fall out of our skies. We can't update shit because we need a 51st state. God forbid we take care of anything we have now. No, it's our patriotic duty to live in a pile of slop and shit. So that way, oil executives can afford another yacht.
On the day of judgment, Allah will ask, I was hungry. Did you feed me? I was thirsty. Did you bring me water? The people will say, Ya Rab, how could we? And he will say, did you not see my servant in need and you turned away? Right now, Gaza's children are starving, thirsty, forgotten by the world, but not by you. Every meal you give is a lifeline.
The Epstein files are an anti-intellectual nuclear bomb that I'm not sure we can handle as a society or a world. The thing is, we don't have some independent committee to interpret these files for us. We don't trust anyone to do that because they'd probably be culpable. Instead, we've got this enormous trove of documents available to anyone with an internet connection, and the problem is, it doesn't provide definitive answers. It doesn't provide a clear narrative. Instead, it's filled with redactions and fragmented conversations and unverifiable claims, and the only people who can provide clarity to this situation are an administration doing everything it can to further obfuscate this information. It's gotten so bad that if this admin unredacted all these files and released them, we probably wouldn't believe them, and can you blame us? And so the repercussions we are facing as a society are monumental. All you have to do is go online for 5 seconds and you'll see the torrent of unsubstantiated conspiracy theories flooding social media. Random content creators reading some fragmented piece of a redacted email and using that as the centerpiece of an elaborate conspiracy theory. If we thought truth was dead before, these files have dug up its corpse and beaten it for good measure. And what's truly insidious about this, what you can argue may be intentional, is that this raw, unfiltered pile of data everyone is sifting through and drawing their own conclusions from is doing one thing clearly. It's muddying the reality of what actually happened. We aren't able to hold accountable those who need to be held accountable because this fire hose of documentation is so fragmented that it obscures culpability. But now it's out here being tried by the court of public opinion, and we have to grapple with the reality that almost all of the elite and wealthy in this country were either directly engaged in the systemic rape and torture of children, or, if they weren't, turned a blind eye to the atrocities. And we've always had this undercurrent of understanding that the folks at the top weren't the most ethical or morally sound. We always believed that behind closed doors things were happening, but we've never been given such proof of it, such definitive, horrifying evidence that these wealthy elites are as craven and deranged as we imagined. And yet there it is, sitting in a pile of documents for anyone to read, and we haven't even seen the worst of it. There aren't any adults in the room to adjudicate this matter. The ones many believed were the adults turned out to be the predators. These amoral monsters need to be held to account for their depravity. The victims of these people need some kind of resolution. We're not going to get that by treating these documents as a wellspring of potential conspiracies that tickle our confirmation bias. This administration is too culpable in these files to be seriously considered arbiters. This is such a calamity and failure of the bedrocks of our society that I don't know how we ever deal with this. I don't even think there is a correct path. There might not even be a good one. And I suppose the only solace we can take in this miasma of nightmares, a sort of guiding light in this storm.
You would prefer the human race to endure, right?
The fundamental weakness
You're hesitating.
of Western civilization is empathy.
There's a reason you've never seen a billionaire. Even if you think you have, they've spent fortunes making sure you haven't and never will. Because if you saw what they truly were, you'd tear everything that they've built to the ground. They've been conspiring over centuries to pull off the greatest heist ever perpetrated on humankind. The crime's so big, you can't see it. If you're a normal person, one of the 99.999% of humanity, this is how much money you have. This stone in your hand. Now, if you're one of the lucky few to be a millionaire, by comparison, your wealth is this beach ball. But a billionaire's wealth would be a building over 40 stories tall. Hard to even see that high. One of those billionaires is about to be a trillionaire. His pile of wealth reaches into outer space, above the airplanes, above the weather. You're completely unable to imagine that scale. You're just looking at the pebble in your hand, and that's how they pull it off, using the psychological limitations of the human mind against you. Billionaires push a big marketing campaign to make you think money is infinite. Their billions don't take anything away from you. But money's not infinite. It's like all the water on the earth. It seems endless, but it's not. All the water on earth is finite and unique in the universe. In fact, we've never seen liquid water anywhere else. It's precious, fundamental for sustaining life as we know it. And so is the labor energy of the 8.3 billion people here on planet Earth. Money has no intrinsic value. All the money in the world just represents our total labor supply. What are we able to build, contribute? Well, money is just a token to measure that, to facilitate trade. Trade only exists so we can meet our needs. Humankind's labor energy, that's just another resource that we share, just like our water. Now, what would happen if someone developed a system to start taking all the water on planet Earth, draining it, all the fresh water, the lakes, the rivers, siphoning it into a water tower on a private island, until eventually about 2,900 billionaires personally captured every glacier, every underground aquifer, every drop of rain, until half of planet Earth, over 4 billion people, had no water, nothing but a puddle. Not a puddle each, one puddle for 4 billion people. We would not call what they had wealth. We would call it a crime against humanity and a global crisis. This extraction enterprise, stealing all the resources of the world and all the profits and purpose of the world's labor, has been robbing you for centuries. Sometimes people fight back, but most don't, because they're held under a spell that these billionaires represent you. They're your hero. So you should worship them and continue to give them whatever they want. After all, they have all the water. They must be gods. And maybe, if you work hard enough, you could have all the water too one day. And this is not a metaphor. The people of Earth now have a water crisis. We also have a food crisis, a healthcare, housing, safety, and mental health crisis. And even though we have all the resources that we need to feed and house and clothe and care for everybody, we also seem to have a crisis of meaningful work. Because our global economy is not structured for taking care of ourselves and our needs. We were told to build something else instead. A pyramid. Now you've seen a billionaire.
Just killed another woman today. Dr. Linda Davis. She's not an immigrant. She wasn't a protester. She was just somebody driving, and ICE was chasing somebody else who had no criminal history, by the way, chasing them in a very dangerous manner, to the point that the police of their city in Georgia said that if it was us doing this chase, this would not have happened because we have safe chasing tactics or whatever. ICE doesn't, because they're just a bunch of untrained dudes. Everybody's like, respect federal agents. They're just a bunch of dudes. They're just dudes that wanted $50,000, not realizing that it's spread over the next 5 years when it's not going to be around in 5 years. They killed another woman, Dr. Linda Davis. She was a special ed teacher. I'm sure you already know this. I'm sure it's all over your page. I'm blown away, because it started out with, oh, it was a domestic terrorist trying to kill an agent. Oh, it was a domestic terrorist trying to kill an agent. I wonder what they're going to say about Dr. Linda Davis. Trigger warning? Car accidents really trigger me? This is bad. You cannot be a good person and support ICE. You cannot be a Christian and support ICE. You can't call yourself a real fucking American if you support ICE.
Hey, do you guys remember back during that whole pandemic and vaccine situation? And a bunch of us were questioning things and also saying we shouldn't trust the people pulling the strings in the government and the media. And now come to find out that many of those people are most likely involved in a global satanic cannibalistic pedophile ring. Do you get it now? Hopefully you get it now, because if you don't get it by now, I don't think you're ever going to get it. And for those of you who called us crazy conspiracy theorists, we will accept your apology at any point in time and let bygones be bygones. Because if there is any hope in these sick fucks being held responsible for what they have done, we have to stop fighting each other. And if you agree, do me a favor and give me a follow, because we've got something in the works.
Because we're Jews, it's being done in our name. We have to stand up and yell. It's not anti-Semitism to be against Zionism. On the contrary, we are attacked. Even when I went out in New York, my car tires were slashed, the windows, the mirrors broken, and so forth. But we don't care. We're going out anyway. Wherever there is a large Jewish community, wherever there's a very religious Jewish community, even if it's not large, they will be in opposition to the existence of the Zionist state of Israel, because it is antithetical to Judaism. Zionism is a movement that started around 150 years ago That's just really recently, relatively recently. And it's a movement of people who were totally estranged from the Jewish religion. They were nationalists. They weren't practicing the religion as a whole. And they wanted just a convenient community, a land, a nation that they should feel comfortable and proud of themselves. The Jews never attempted, even though we went through hardships, the Inquisition, the Crusades, and we suffered a lot, but we never attempted to reestablish a Jewish sovereignty, a Jewish nationhood, a Jewish kingdom, because we know it's verboten, it's forbidden, it's just not acceptable according to Judaism to have our own state. Remember, the religion is 3,000 years ago, but 2,000 years ago, we were sent into exile by God. We have to be loyal citizens in every country we reside. And we're not to attempt to leave exile because it's a godly declared exile. Jews lived with a distinctly different religion than the Muslims, but it was never a problem. In fact, it's more than that. The Muslims took in the Jews by the Inquisition, where they tried to torture Jews to convert to Christianity. It was the Muslim countries that embraced the Jews and took them in, and the Jews were able to flourish. They realized in order to get a lot of massive support from the world, evangelistic Christians, Jews who don't know the Torah, don't know their laws, who don't practice the laws. So they knew they'll go to Palestine and they'll be able to tell everybody, oh, this is the God-given land to the Jewish people. They automatically started breaching and transgressing the laws of the Torah, not to kill and not to steal, not to oppress a people, because they wanted to make their national home in a land that was inhabited by the Palestinian people. Now, right at the beginning, when they said, oh, it's an empty land. And if anybody stood up against them, they said, because you hate the Jews and you're an anti-Semite. They treat us like the worst terrorists in the world. When a boy or girl turns 17, they become a criminal, even if they're not demonstrating, because we refuse to serve in the IDF. They yell at me as a Holocaust denier when my grandparents were killed in Auschwitz. My father escaped Hungary when the Nazis came in. My father was in Auschwitz. Almost the entire families were wiped out. I live and breathe Holocaust. How dare they claim that we're Holocaust deniers? But that's just part of that, the vile Zionism, that they have the power of the most expensive PR and the power of AIPAC that influences, put pressure on politicians to be silent. That is what they're afraid of. The people who stand up and reveal the truth, that Judaism is a beautiful, and we live together with Muslims, and we are thankful to Muslims, and we don't want what's happening to the Palestinians. We cry with the Palestinian suffering. That is what they're afraid of. The world will wake up.
The West is so backwards that when they found out their leaders were associating with legendary child attacker Jeffrey Epstein, they said, okay, compare this to a civilized country like India, where they went absolutely apeshit after they found out their PM had associated with Epstein. Complacency towards this type of thing is just a part of Western culture. We shouldn't really judge them for it. For example, earlier this year, Trump's spiritual advisor was caught attacking a child for 5 years straight, and he only got 6 months. This didn't even make the news because it's so normalized over there. Another Western country sent a child attacker to the Olympics to represent them. That's how normal it is over there. Personally, I really like the food and the culture of the West, but I wouldn't recommend traveling there. It's just too dangerous.
It's time, America. I didn't serve this country, just like you guys didn't serve this country, for rapists and pedophiles. I have heard and seen enough, and it is time that we get together and start making plans. This is not going to change. This administration is letting this go, and they are continuing to let these people run this country. It is time that we unite together, stand together to stop this corruption. All you prayer warriors, please start praying for the men and women that are preparing for this, because we're going to need you more than ever. What side of history are you going to be on? There's a group of people making a platform so that we can get off social media, so that we aren't suppressed and silenced, so that we can unite and group together. This is good versus evil. This isn't political. This isn't an agenda. This is the prince of this world trying to take what's left. God be with you all.
So I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I've been asking myself the question, is the world, the masses, really ready to wake up to all the lies and deception that this spell that we've all been under for so long?
And I personally think that the answer is no. I think most people are not ready to wake up. Why? Because when you wake up, life, it's just not fun anymore. Everything is a lie. I mean, when you fully wake up and you realize that our food's being poisoned, we're being sprayed like fucking bugs. You have billionaire elites literally traveling around the world in their stupid little conferences saying that they need to depopulate the earth and they need to do all this climate change and, you know, reflect the sun away and all this fucking bullshit that they're doing. It's like we're a fucking experiment. And I think that when most people truly wake up to that fact, I mean, I'm talking about where you fully understand it and you fully comprehend it. Like, how can you go out and look at this bullshit every day and not get fucking pissed off? How can you go out and get groceries and take your kids to the park when you're being sprayed like fucking bugs? How do we live on an earth where we're born, yet there's a small group of humans that want to kill all the rest of us? And if they don't want to kill us, they just want us to be their fucking slaves. They want us to use their fake money and believe in their fake stock market and eat their fake plastic fucking food and drive their fucking cars that they make get bad gas mileage. Life's just not fun when you realize that everything you fucking look at or listen to or hear or watch on TV is all fucking propaganda. That's the reason why I believe that most people are not willing to wake up. Now, the good news is, if you made it this far in the video, you're probably already awake and you probably agree with me, folks. The good news is this. I believe in the next few years, we're going to see a mass awakening, and we're going to put it into all this bullshit, and we are going to bring heaven to earth. Love you all.
So apparently, lawmakers are finally stepping up to investigate Jeffrey Epstein's former desert getaway, Zorro Ranch, now owned by, guess what? A die-hard Trump supporter. Pretty convenient, huh? As you'd expect, Don Huffins is acting all kinds of sketchy. He's dodging questions about the abuses committed at the ranch, alleged murders, and the claims that some missing girls are actually buried there. To make matters even sketchier, Huffins' son, Russell, works in the fucking Trump administration as an associate director of agency outreach. Honestly, this whole situation is just the same old story of powerful PDFs closing ranks and protecting their secrets instead of facing the music. And here's the thing, you finally have them. And if you conduct yourselves properly over the next couple of months, it will be over. But you cannot relent. Don't stop sharing this stuff. You have them on the run, so fucking get some. Peace, blessings, and shine on.
Donald Trump is not innocent. He brought change to this country, yes, but it's time his actions catch up to him. It's time the people lead America, truly united, under no one.
I want Republicans to listen to me today, and I specifically mean Republicans and not MAGA, because you're lost. If you're still supporting Donald Trump or anything associated with his presidential cabinet and administration, there's no communicating with you. I'm talking specifically to Republicans, centrists, libertarians, people who aren't necessarily hard left-leaning and are reluctant to join us because they don't want to be associated as such. This is not coming from an unjustified superiority complex. I too have been the victim of propaganda. When the pandemic hit and they're like, you need to get the vaccine, I didn't do it because I believed it worked. I did it because they offered me a free year of health insurance. And now I have what they are currently trying to diagnose as an autoimmune disease, where this does not run in my family at all. And I have been a beacon of health my entire life up until I was 37 years old and took the vaccine. That is a very real consequence I've had to deal with on the account of consuming propaganda. So it doesn't matter how mentally fortified you consider yourself to be, a free thinker, a critical thinker, an independent thinker. Propaganda seeps into the subconscious like a fucking Taylor Swift song, and it gets the best of all of us. Right now, you are still being propagated to hate things like socialism, to believe that allocating majority of your country's budget to the military is a noble cause. And in theory, it actually is, right? Protecting the sovereignty of our land and honoring and caring for the veterans or the active duty soldiers who do that is massively important and extremely noble. So I don't bear any point of contention with you allocating and siding with Republicans on the account of such, but in reality, that's not actually what's happening here. If you've never seen any of my content, I've dedicated a lot of my page to paper trails, to proving who owns the United States, what their names are. You're going to have to fall down the rabbit hole of my content later on. For the sake of expediting this post, we know that they, in large, own everything. They own the central banking system, which is your mortgages, your pensions, your retirement funds, your checking, your savings account, your stocks, your bonds. They own the military. They own printing press. They own your education system, okay? These are these satanic cult worshippers that have been divulged in the Epstein files pretending to be Jews or Christian nationalists, okay? And they've been around for centuries. That's why they've been kicked out of 109 countries. That's not actually Jews. Those are devil worshiping people calling themselves Jews, right? This furthermore persecutes monotheistic religion and people who are actually embodying God's words, right? But nonetheless, they are evil, and they own the printing press that writes all of the textbooks for the United States Department of Education. It's called Maxwell Publishing. It's Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who is a confirmed Mossad agent, okay? So he is confirmed as working for these people who own all of the banking systems in the West, meaning the United States and primarily Western Europe, okay? So they own your textbooks, which means that from the moment you enter into the education system in the United States, you are being propagated. Your history has been rewritten. Your politics has been rewritten. Economic books, basically everything you're reading is an extension of their propaganda, which is why you're not privy to the fact that they've been kicked out of 109 countries for doing the exact same thing that they're already doing. That's why you think socialism is bad, when in reality, socialism is the best thing for every thriving, civilized, and developed country, okay? Every country that has been successful in building its own economy has been successful because they kick out central banking, more specifically the Rothschilds, okay? And every single time they do this, they wage propaganda and war against them. And this furthers the point of propaganda. Not only do they own the textbooks you've been reading and the education system you've been indoctrinated with, they own every single news station, including CNN, Fox and CNN, liberal and conservative. They created the political polarity. They own the manosphere, the red pill propaganda, the Andrew Tates, the Fresh and Fits. They own social media. They own mainstream media. They own every single music label in the United States of America and every Hollywood production company making every single movie or television show that you are actively consuming. Your movies, your music, your social media, your mainstream media, your textbooks, your magazines, your newspapers, and all of the podcasts that you are watching on social media that further the gender divide and political polarity are owned by the central banking system. If you work for a living, you are the working class, okay? You are not part of the upper 1%. There are 3,000 people amongst a population of 8 billion in the fucking world that are the ruling class of all of society. Their only goal is to get as much as they possibly can in this lifetime. Hate is something that you opt into. It is a decision that you consciously make to participate in, which means it is a decision you can make to opt out of, to not participate in. You don't have to call yourself a liberal or a Democrat. You don't have to call yourself a Christian or a Jew. You don't have to call yourself anything other than a fucking human being to realize that the weapons formed against you are currently fucking prospering. And it is imperative to the success of this movement that you wake the fuck up and realize A, you've been propagated, and B, none of it fucking matters. We gotta get to work. I'm talking TT torches and fucking pitchforks. I'm talking those AR-15s and those hunting rifles you guys fought so hard to protect need to be outside the fucking Capitol, demolishing the ruling class and the central banking system. That is what needs to happen.
Do you use LED light bulbs in your home? If so, you might want to listen up. Before LEDs, most of us grew up with incandescent bulbs in our home. So why did we quietly shift away from that warm, steady, and simple light of the incandescent bulbs and end up with LED lights almost everywhere? They told us it was about energy efficiency, saving power, saving the planet, and saving money. Yet our power bills continue to go up, and here is what no one talks about. LEDs flicker at high frequencies. You may not be able to see it, but your nervous system feels it. And with this change in lighting, people are reporting more headaches, eye strain, and irritability, and a constant low-grade anxiety that never seems to go away. Meanwhile, incandescent light is warm and steady, and many people find it more calming. So here's the uncomfortable question. If your home lighting is making you feel more wired and anxious while causing you to have sleep issues, who benefits? Could it possibly be the system who sells the solutions? Because why ban a light bulb that didn't cause any of these issues?
As I get older, I get choked up a lot easier. Seeing the pain of people, it starts to take a toll. And there have been some moments recently where the sadness turns to rage, not physical rage yet. And it's many things, but the one that I can't let go of, it's gripping most of my thoughts, and I joke around about it, probably shouldn't. If what we're learning about Epstein and all involved is true, and it's so much more than just one guy, obviously, and without having a first hand with it, I still make the assumption it is true. The patterns are just too hard and too solid to ignore. And it's not that it happened. It's that it's probably happening as we speak right now. And there are people in our government, in our society, carrying out these acts, covering up these acts. It's a system of blackmail, a system of zero regard for the innocent. It's a system of darkness that's so much heavier and so much more consequential than I think I fully comprehend. But it's weighing on me like a ton of bricks. And then I think, well, do something. Who's going to do something? From my view, the feds have too many men and women that take orders to defend these monsters. We the people do not have the resources to fight these monsters. They've created the perfect guard. So my message is to all law enforcement, all feds, FBI, Secret Service, and on and on. This is now the time to step the fuck up. The tentacles of this are as deep can go. And to think that voting or the legal system is going to take care of these monsters, it doesn't look like that'll happen. If there are children suffering right now, we call on you, the defenders of these monsters, to turn toward the light and do something.
Now, the only way I think that we can handle this and without any gruesome purge is every time we go to these protests to get ICE out of America, let's act like it's a Halloween party. Yeah, wear your purge costume. However, don't take weapons. We're not there to hurt nobody yet, right? So if you take weapons, it gives them plausible deniability. Even if you're carrying a handgun, you have a license for that handgun, and you keep it holstered. You never pull it out of the holster. They can shoot you and say, hey, you had a handgun. Or if you're in your car and you're trying to get the hell away from these little fucking Israeli soldiers and you try to drive off, they can shoot you through the fucking window and say, oh, they were trying to run us over. There are several Americans that are getting killed by these people, guys. So every time you protest, remind these motherfuckers what we'll do if they don't want to fucking step out of office and get their sick, twisted, sadistic shit out of our fucking country. How about that?